Hello and welcome. Welcome to my channel. I am Sharron Martin and I am a messenger for Gaia. So I connect with her most days and bring through messages and transmissions to bring you the information and energy updates that she is wanting you to know about this time. So sit back and relax, there's a lot to come, and just kind of feel into it in a way, take what resonates in your body and just let the rest go. Your inner self will know what is true for you, and yeah, we're in really big times. So Gaia is talking about this idea that we've been learning to stand and be comfortable on shifting sands, but now we have to be comfortable in actually riding the dunes as the dunes are moving. That's the kind of movement that we're experiencing under our feet in our physical world at the moment. So I'm going to be reading from my notes, so that's why I won't be looking at you the whole time. So in general, there's one of the things that Gaia wants to explain and to invite you to look at is to view what is happening on our world in more than one way, on more than one level. So, each of these experiences that we are having and are witnessing, they can be observed from a very physical, three-dimensional viewpoint. For example, the lockdown. The lockdown meant that we were hidden away, that we were told that we weren't to go out and have connections with other people, and that felt constraining in many regards, and yet on a higher level that allowed for greater contemplation, greater solitude, greater inner contemplation. And so, while we had some feelings of constraint in a third dimensional way, in a higher dimensional way, we had the opportunity to let some of the consumerist activities, the need to have new things, the need to go shopping and being out in the world, being consumers on that three-dimensional way, that was let go, and in place that there was opportunity to go inside, take a look at your inner self, your inner world, your inner view. And so that brings a greater level of awareness, which raises and begins, for many people, that's the beginning step on their journey of consciousness, on their journey of personal transformation into higher dimensions, frequencies, and consciousness. So, in my dialogue with her, she has spoken of this time being, simply put, an illuminating of truth, personal and collective sectors of social structures. For example, finance, education, health, medical, food, that the foundations of these would be ripped out, and this would happen in a mostly invisible manner. And I've spoken to you about these aspects before. This is a little review here about these aspects which we're now going to see shift and change. And then that they would come into a more visible transformation, occurring through a more gentle process of dismantling and crumbling. So that is the phase that we are in now. So you may be watching, you may be observing that many of these institutions that form the very foundations of our social structure and functioning in our world are not operating how they used to. For example, I have gone to go to the bank, and I have visited 5 banks in the last couple of days to do a transaction, and they've all been closed. And that to me is a sign of something that's changing, and it doesn't really matter what, but why are they still closed? Why are so many of them closed? Is there something else going on underneath that? And so we don't have to know the answers, but what we do have to do is look for the things that are changing and begin to ask questions, because that's how we become more conscious and more aware. It's not about hearing what other people say and taking it on board. It's about raising the issues with yourself. Okay, so this phase that we're in now, so she's speaking of this current and next few months of these energy crossover patterns, which I've also mentioned before, that we'll be seeing in a metaphorical sense this laying over of nets that hold enough of the energy of sameness so that people feel comfortable with that, whilst bringing in some change. So this is to help, Gaia says, to help assimilate, to help humanity assimilate and integrate the new energies, and to recognise more clearly that there is a need for change. This is all to assist humanity and the unawakened collective to observe a need for change, to recognise more clearly that things do need to change in terms of our planet and our relationship with one another and our relationship to the planet. So this is to help us instigate it in our own lives. So she says this will take us through the next few months and will shift perceptions and paradigms to be in greater alignment with a new way of being. Then the new 5D way will begin to drop in. So that at the moment will be too radical, she says, too radical in its difference for many to cope. She also speaks about going through a period of reduced resource, this being a catalyst for greater reflection of one's own impact on the whole. So we are in transition and translation. That's what she calls it, that stage of transition and translation. The shifting sands analogy, or under everyone's feet things have moved. So we all need to find balance in self. So this coming into balance is an extremely important aspect at this time. So this is in balance mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in balance between the mind and the heart, between your inner self and your outer self, your feminine aspect and your masculine aspect, bringing everything into balance. This is crucial at this time for our well-being and our awakening. She's saying that we need to master that balance first. She also speaks of our atomic structure, which I spoke about in the last video, that our atomic structure is speeding up, that the electrons in the atomic structure are speeding up. She's spoken of this exponential energy for first wavers. It's a supporting energy for rejuvenation, enabling them to act cohesively and collectively and pulling through the next wave. So these are all simply put constructs, and I've been in discussion with her about these things over this last little while. So we know we're going through this shakedown and shake up, then a crumbling and a transitioning into change and the new. So Gaia is saying that as these new transformative ideas begin to settle in, and so these are things that have already been uncovered, we will have seen some of these aspects, that it's to bring us to a place of greater balancing in our viewpoint. So, to look at the viewpoints, to see what feels right and real to us, to find a balance in it all. And this is so that we can recognize the power play that's been occurring here on the planet. So I asked Gaia about the state of our world in terms of what we might be going through, in terms of food, for example, and other resource. And it looks as though that's another area we'll be going through some major restructuring. And this will be very visible to us the imagery that I'm seeing is that, you know, each of these buildings, which represents the various arms and institutions in our world, that they're having new bricks or blocks placed on the top, and then new foundations beginning to reform, restructure, reorganize, redistribute. So the resource is going to be redistributed, and the way in which these sectors are managed will be more cohesive and more collaborative. There's also this notion of the templates being overlaid. It's still temporary, transitional, as though there are just things being put in place here to hold and stabilize as we move into the new ways. So there is this sense that we're moving into a bit of terrain that feels a little bit desert-like. It's very short-lived, but it looks like, you know, there might be this phase that affects some of us in the world. I'm not sure how global this is, but where there might be a lack of crops, as though the garden is bare, as though large-scale gardens are bare. But it's very short-lived, and then they start to sprout and grow beautiful new fresh green shoots. And so I get that the new shoots come through in around August. So, you know, June and July, we may in some parts of the world find that our access to fresh produce is a little bit skinnier, but not completely gone, just perhaps reduced. There's a lot of alchemy that's going to go on in July, a lot of transformation. And Gaia is saying, you know, we may have to be a little bit more resourceful. We may have to use our personal store more than we would have in the past. So, you know, it might pay to get a couple of extra bits. So as we go through this alchemization process, also at the same time, we're going to be going through this greater crystallization of the human body. You will have heard me speaking about this. It's been going on in my viewfinder anyway for quite a number of years. I think it's probably maybe 5 or 6 years ago I began to see this occurring in people who are in my healing space. That part of the work that I would be doing was landing more crystalline structure into their physical being. And she's saying also that many of us might want to have more of a liquid diet in July, maybe more shakes and things made from powders and coconut water, for example. So on a world front here, in this time, we are exploring greater sustainable systems, as we are witnessing nature and how nature manages itself. And we will come to that place within our own systems, our own ergonomic systems, our own ecosystems, our own environmental systems, and also in regard to our personal energetic systems and bodies. We're going to go through this contemplative, integrative, human aspecting the self, the higher self and the inner self, the endo and the ecto, the inner and the outer, and how those aspects correlate and integrate with one another, and how that connects to and contributes to the collective. I see it as a bit of shortage and austerity, but not starvation or poverty. There'll be a lot of community contributions. So very much the same, you know, on the physical level it will feel a bit different. We may strike some shortages, but on a higher level we are viewing it from a place of greater unity consciousness, where we will help one another more, where we will get help and help one another with equipment and resource and knowledge and wisdom, and a recognising of the fact that we're one big family and that each contributes to the whole, because the health and wealth in all respects and all regards comes from both aspects. The health of all is how the individual is contributed to the well-being of the whole, which contributes to the well-being of the individual, and the well-being of the individual contributes to the well-being of the whole. It's very integrated in its approach. It's as though many of you might be watching this and thinking, yeah, well, I already do that, and that's are definitely true. I agree with that. But this is though that there's this kind of general epiphany across the world, and when she was showing me this, it had such a beautiful feeling to it. So definitely my sense of our time over the next few months is that this clearing out continues, and there's this transitional temporary way of being that helps us to reset a new way of functioning collectively as humanity, as a planetary body, and as an interconnected set of species, which includes all sentient beings. So that's plants, animals and humans. Is temporary. There are a few months of being in this temporary transitional stage and phase as the clearing and cleaning out completes, and then the systems can come in, the ones that work harmoniously with what exists, and take us into new templates which are very, very different. So it's a bit like temporary accommodation while the new house is being built, so that all will be sliding transitionally through to the new. And I'm really getting to get a few weeks of extra supplies. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like, share and subscribe. I also offer one-on-one sessions in energy healing and Akashic readings. And for those of you seeking clarity of life purpose and direction, the instructions to book a session are below. Infinite blessings and much love to you.